Blog Talk Radio.
Life is kind of a funny thing. If you believe it, you can have it. There's no stopping what luck can bring. There's no rules, everything is magic. If you believe in luck, life is easy enough.
Hello, and you are tuned into With the Contest Queen, where the winning begins, with myself, Carolyn Wellman. It is Friday, October 9th, and we have a very special guest, Helene Hadsell. Now, before we talk to Helene, let me tell you about what we're giving away on this episode. Divine.ca has donated a sweatshirt, and I'll be letting everyone know how to win later in the show. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Helene. Helene Hadsell is living proof, not only of her own dynamic philosophy, but of the entire New Thought movement. Her emphasis is on successful living through right thinking. Dr. Norman Vincent Peale wrote about her success in his books and articles, and Dr. Joseph Murphy, who authored books on the power of the subconscious mind, was a friend that encouraged Helene to keep writing and sharing her experiences in the physical, mental, and spiritual dimensions. Jose Silva, founder of the Silva Mind method of mind training, inspired her to research and to investigate subjects on self-awareness, or as Helene likes to call it, self-I-awareness, and mind over matter techniques. She has traveled all over the United States, Europe, and South America, and Helene was a very popular speaker in the 1970s and 80s, giving seminars on mind control, positive thinking, and the spiritual realm. She has authored several best-selling books, and among them, The Name It and Claim It Game, which tells through how positive action she won almost every contest she ever entered, including winning a home in Irving, Texas. In 1986, she founded Delta Sciences, and you can find that at deltasciences.com. It's DELTASCIENCES.com. And for all the links, make sure you sign up to my newsletter, and all the links to everything we discuss on in the show will be there. She had a retreat center and had people come from all over the world. She had guests from England, Switzerland, Hungary, and Peru, as well as every state in the United States. She even had an ambassador from Trinidad stay for a week. How exciting. At the age of 85, she's semi-retired and lives quietly in Alvarado, Texas, on 5 acres in the country. She continues to write and does blueprints daily. She has many exciting anecdotes she would like to share. Helene, thank you so much for being a guest on my show again.
Well, I'm here, ready to chat.
Ready to chat. Now, one of the interesting things that you talk about that pertains to, of course, my audience, the people that like to enter sweepstakes, is the SPEC method that you coined. And what I have found is, since the last time you've been on to this show, that a lot of people love your technique, but I think they also falter with it because it doesn't always work for them. So what I'd like to do is do a review of what SPEC is so we can teach the new listeners, and then go over maybe some of the things that people do wrong, or the mistakes or the little bits that trip them up, so we can help them get over those hurdles and use your techniques properly, and so that they too can have what they want come into their lives.
Great. Okay, you want me to get started on that?
Yeah, so tell people, what exactly is SPEC?
Okay, SPEC is meaning selected, projected, expected, collected. And that's a small term, so, it's easily memorable. All right, when you, first of all, when you select it, there's a goal. You have to get a goal to get started, and there's many ways that you can, what I call projected and expected. But let's get on with, first of all, selected. We all have our wants and our needs And so what do you decide? What is important now? And it can be anything. It can be material, mental and spiritual, whatever you're tuned in with. Then, all right, you have that, and sometime you can put up little poster boards to remind yourself, or you can tack up words or whatever. And, one of the things that I have found when I am going to do a projection, when I have a particular thing I'm working on, the best time to program for me, if I watch television, I turn it off and don't listen to the commercials. And this is a wonderful opportunity. Another one is when you're driving, and just put that up there. See, what we're working with here is energy. The more energy that you project to something, the faster it comes to manifestation. And this is where people can, many times can get discouraged. They project something, and they go through all the formalities, and now they're wanting to collect it, but nothing happened. Don't feel bad. There can be a delay in results. This is the way I explain it. And so you just don't have enough energy, kids. So stay with it. And when you get discouraged and say, well, it's not going to work, or they're rigged, contests are rigged, or millions of people entered it, that's being negative. And what you've done when you say that, you've nullified all your all that good energy. Sometimes, and I'm going to brag here, sometimes I project something and it happens in a day or two, and I squeal with delight because, see, I never know how much energy I have projected toward that end result. Sometimes it takes 3 months, sometimes 6 months, but it's not that important to me, because if I am really and truly excited about something, I'm going to stay with it until something happens. I'll give you an example that just happened last week. I was at the grocery store and I picked up a magazine called The Sun, S-U-N. It's a national publication, and it always is quoting Nostradamus did this, the end of the world is coming, all of the negative things to stimulate, and people pick it up and are really, really disconglomerated with all of the doom and gloom that's on. Well, I picked it up, came home and read it, and I thought, there's so much doom and gloom in this. I think I'm just going to write them a letter, and I'm going to tell them about SPEC. And I'm going to say, why don't you upbeat this place, magazine, give me a page or whatever, and here's my book, here's my SPEC technique, and you can use it. And this was on a Wednesday, I believe it was. Well, I sent it out, and then what I kept seeing was a full page that they devoted to SPEC. That's all I wanted, was to uplift these people that read this doom and gloom. Well, Monday morning, got an email and said, we're accepting your article, and send us a photograph of yourself for your story. Well, that was an opportunity for me to squeal with delight, because, my God, that was less than a week when I already had collected it. Now, when I say collected, because now the story has been accepted. Now, it may be a month or two before it's actually published, because they have their stories backlogged. But that's not important. They did accept it. And this is something that, okay, now I have an opportunity to go ahead and see it, not as a half page. I'm on a whole page, because I have some good material there, and I think it will uplift people. So that is my recent, what I call, projection.
Okay, so I just wanted, so the minute that, for you, the minute that they say, yes, we're printing it, you consider that collected?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Okay. So you selected your goal was to be in this publication.
Yes.
Then you projected it, so you imagined a whole page, and you fully expected them to call. You just didn't know when.
Yeah.
And you got an email 4 days late. Well, I guess if you bought it on, a Wednesday. And then for Monday, that's 4 business days. So 4 business days later, they contacted you. So it manifested in less than a week.
Yes. And what I did here, when I read the magazine, after I read it and wrote the letter, and I write some upbeat stuff. I'll say, I'll start out and say, "Dear editor, how does this grab you?" And so now I have his attention. And I'll say, "Your doom and gloom magazines that I pick up periodically, I think you need some upbeat material." And this is all I said in my query letter. But I send my book, and I send the article that I've written on SPEC. And that was it. Then the next opportunity I had was, let's project it. Well, I had to go to town, which is 12 miles away, and all the while driving, I listen to soft music, but I also see them accepting it. I didn't know that they were going to contact me for a picture, but I see it already in the magazine. That's my end result.
So for someone using the example of a trip to project it, you would want to have them imagine themselves on the beach or walking through Paris, or, well, actually we can use Paris as an example because you use this technique to actually be sitting in Paris on your 40th birthday.
Right, yes, and drinking wine at a sidewalk cafe.
So that's what you held in your head, that image.
Yes. I started that the first of the year, that I wanted to be there on June the 1st, my birthday. And in the interim, I had, been entering contests like the contest queen enters, So I only chose at that time, there were lots of contests. And when, there's a difference between a contest and a sweepstake. That doesn't matter because I've won sweepstakes also. But the contest is you're writing 25 words or less. Where in the world you want to go and why? Okay, I wrote that. Where I want to be in Paris, France, drinking wine, etc. And so in the meantime, about February, I got a notice that my 25 words were being considered for a major prize. And when you do that, you have to sign a notary, and you're legitimate, or they do a phone call or whatever. And lo and behold, I won a Hammond electric organ, and I got real hysterical because I'm not that musically inclined, but I said they're probably telling me something because my 25 words were so offbeat. I said they probably read it and thought I needed therapy. What I wrote in my 25 words was, I'm curious to find out if a pooped couple with 3 kiddos can recapture the rapture of springtime ecstasy in their fat 40 frustrated years. That's all I wrote. And so one of the judges that ordered, probably it was from another Del Monte or Ketchup there, read it and thought, this woman needs therapy. And they decided to give me the second prize in that contest. First prize was the trip, but they decided to give me the Hammond electric organ. And when it came, I had also 6 months of free lessons locally. And my husband got so excited about this. He's the one that went every Saturday to take organ lessons and became proficient in playing the organ. So I didn't need the therapy he did, evidently. But that was
at least it didn't go to waste, and someone had a lot of fun with the prize.
Yeah, that was a fun session. I won another organ, and this one I donated to a church that, sometime you win a major prize, somebody calls and says, "What are you going to do with it?" And this was a local church that had just started, and I said, "Well, you can have the organ." So I donated that because I don't need 2 organs.
No, that was very generous.
Well, that was a fun thing. Yes, yes.
I like sharing prizes too.
Yes,
I think it feels good when you share what you've won with people that, enjoy it.
Oh, yes. The one year that I wanted to, everything was an electric fry pan. That was years and years ago. And I told my husband, don't buy me a fry pan for my Christmas because I know I'm going to win these fry pans because I entered contests, and at that time there were a lot of fry pans. And Christmas, naturally, he bought me a fry pan because what else could the guy buy me? I had everything, and he was going to surprise me. And then in the next month, I won 3 fry pans.
That's funny.
Absolutely. So I gave them away, as gifts. But it's funny. It's so exciting, not only to look forward to things, but to say, now what do I want next? What do I need? And this applies not only to material things, but to physical things, spiritual things. Many times I want an answer for some particular question, and I use the SPEC formula there also. So I get my answer in dreams or in books, or if somebody calls me. It is absolutely probably the best technique you can use for getting things that you want or the things that you need.
Well, let's go through each step again and maybe review some of the things that people do wrong, because I think one of the things that I found is select it. How specific are you when you pick? Because the famous story I have is a woman who emailed me and she said, I asked the universe for a trip south, and in her mind, she was thinking the Caribbean. She was picturing herself on a beach, but she didn't ask for a trip to the beach. She asked for a trip south, and she wanted a trip to Antarctica. So the universe gave her exactly what she asked for. You can't get any more south than Antarctica. So when you're asking, or selecting in this case, how specific are you?
Well, now, see, I wanted Paris, France, and I won the Hammond electric organ. But when the prize came, I was sitting there, and actually the prize was in my husband's name. It was from a men's contest, and it was just at the very last minute. But when he says, where in the world do you want to go and why, I put that, I had another contest that was masculine because it was not the same thing, because this was geared for a woman. But he won it, and in this contest that he won, it said, where do you want to go? And they named off 6 places. So actually, indirectly, I won the prize to Paris due to writing 25 words for another sponsor.
Okay, so you just focus on the end result. You don't focus on the how.
Yes. And so, when I won the house, I decorated inside mentally. I had the floor plans laid out, everything, before they even told me that I was the winner. And so these are fun things. And fortunately, my husband is was very supportive. And he drew up the plans, and we sat there in the evening and, laid out the whole schematic for the house. So when they would let us know we won, we would act surprised, because they expected you to be surprised.
It's like seeing your Christmas presents before.
Yes,
Before before Christmas Day.
Yeah, and it's so much fun, especially if you have children or you have somebody that is in need, and they sit there and they say they want this or what. Something funny happened last week. There's a new movie, there's a new sitcom coming out called Sherry, and this is that black woman that's been on The View with Barbara Walters, and she started her new sitcom, and they did a preliminary thing the other night for one of her segments, and she was complaining. The three of them were sitting there having coffee and complaining that they hadn't had any fun lately. And she said, "Well, listen, let's draw a map." And I read an article that you can project for something, and then the next scene they were all sitting around the table pasting pictures on a sheet of paper and writing out what they wanted as their end result. And of course, that segment, they all got their end result at the end of it, which was, a little unreal, but it was a sitcom, and they had to have, beginning and a middle and an ending of it. But it was a fun thing, and I was elated that they had spent that much time sharing with people, what is it you want, and they wrote it down, and they had magazines there where they cut out their pictures. This one woman wanted a husband, so she got a very handsome man and pasted it up, and she had these qualifications. And when I was listening to it, I thought, as a qualification for a husband or a mate or somebody, I would always say with like interests, because that's always important. When you get a little more specific, you're going to take him exactly the way he is. You can't change him. Don't ever try that. But you can understand him, and you can encourage him, and you can love him. And it's not 100% perfect, because nobody is. But when you learn to understand where they're coming from and not quarrel or not want to be in a power mode that you have to tell them what to do or whatever, that's not where it's at. Just enjoy what you have, and so he's good looking from the back or whatever. Because many times, and I have this weird sense of humor. I do.
I love your sense of humor.
Yeah, yeah. Because I see somebody and I'll say, look at him, and I won't be surprised. And I said, you got to be better looking from the back. And I turn him around. It's a joke, lighten them up and get them where they're comfortable. And, like Jose used to say, I never know what you're going to say. And I would answer him by saying, neither do I until it comes out, But be spontaneous. Let life be a daring adventure.
Yeah, that's one of the things that you say all the time that I love, because it's true.
Yeah.
Now, we have one of our listeners has typed out a question, and I'm going to read it to you, and I think right away I've learned from you. I want to answer a little bit first. She says, I desperately want to win a kitchen makeover contest. There is one that is currently running, so how does she go about this? And she says, it's a daily entry, and I can picture this as my kitchen, but I don't know what else to try. And right away, when I see that, I see the word desperately, and I think she needs to banish the desperation, because doesn't the word desperate push it away from you energetically?
No, that's a form of energy.
Oh, that's okay?
It's a form of energy, yes. Uh-huh.
Okay.
I want it so bad I can taste it. I'm in my kitchen, and I'm using these appliances, and I'm standing there, and I'm so excited about this. Oh, look at the room I have. And if there is a specific floor plan for the kitchen that she's wanting, I would make the floor plan. I would see myself in front of the kitchen, especially put a window there so you can look out, and just have the thing and just feel comfortable with it, or put a pie in the oven. Right now I want double ovens, which I had in my home, and I love double ovens. So you can be very, very down specific if you can, draw your own plans for it. But always see yourself as having it and feeling elated that you're in the kitchen.
Okay, so she needs to get excited.
Yes, These are energy things that you are projecting for your end result. Energy's the key here.
Now here's the other. Oh, I'm sorry, Helene.
Yes, but how often are you seeing that end result? And again, I mean, repeat it over and over and over again. Just have that picture in your mind, and then driving the car, in between, sitting on the commode at night, can't fall asleep at night. All of these opportunities are there to give you more energy for your end result. Don't ever miss a bet. And, sometimes you say, well, she's getting paranoid, Not really, because there's so many mundane things you have to do. And so when you have an opportunity, you can only think of one thing at a time. And if it's tedious, like vacuuming the floor and so forth, that's another opportunity. So I just find these little opportunities and use them to energize whatever I want.
Yeah, there's an expression, so like the zen of raking, this repetitive task is very zen-like. So anything that you're doing is repetitive, you use that opportunity to project.
Sure, yes. And I get emotional, and I can feel it, contented, happy, all these good feelings that go with it.
Okay, now here's another question. Should she care where this kitchen makeover comes from? And the reason I ask is, so say she's entering for this particular kitchen makeover, but what she wants is a kitchen makeover, so maybe she shouldn't care if it's this kitchen makeover, or she wins the money to do it, or, there's...
No, I see. Here's an opportunity.
Okay.
If they're giving a prize for a kitchen makeover.
Okay.
But there's other prizes for money. I had that same thing happen to me. I wanted a new stove, and I entered that General Electric thing, and there were so many prizes, and I wanted the stove, and just kept projecting, and finally the prizes. I had a contest club here in Dallas, and they had all won their prizes, and I didn't win a thing, and I was kind of down, and thought, okay, maybe I hadn't projected enough energy. But in the meantime, a day or two later, I got a $1,000 check, a spray paint contest that I entered, and they were sending $1,000 as prizes. And I laughed, and I got elated, and I said, oh, here is my stove. I thought I was supposed to get it from GE, but this spray paint contest gave me $1,000. So I went and bought the stove, exactly the brown stove. I mean, everything was going to be copper, and that's what I wanted. And I was just standing there admiring it when I had this letter from GE, and they said they were sorry that they had misplaced, or they hadn't notified me, and they found out this is belated, but here was my prize for a washer dryer, for whatever I wanted. And so it was a stove. So anyway, when the district manager called me, and I said, well, I just bought a stove. And he said, well, if you had gotten the GE, well, I got one at Sears because it was cheaper. But he said, for the same difference, what is it that you want in GE appliances? And that's when I won a new washer and dryer. I didn't need it, but at least I got the stove, is what I'm trying to tell you. So I got it from the spray paint contest.
So she should just focus on the kitchen.
Yeah. She should focus on her kitchen and don't doubt where it's coming from, because, yes, there would be an opportunity there if there's a contest running, but there are other contests that have money that you can utilize and put it in the kitchen.
So she should just focus on the kitchen. So that's the projecting it. So I think this is where most people get tripped up, and I think I've gotten tripped up on the expecting it. It's I've known myself to get very anxious when I don't see something. I love to see something instantly. I think us younger folk who, are so used to, the quick TV and the internet and, fast food, and if something doesn't show up in 3 minutes, it's, where is it? Where is it?
Yeah.
So do you think people get tripped up on the expected? They don't have enough patience with it, and they need to trust more that the universe is shuffling the pieces and give them a little time?
Yes, I had an email the other day, which is kind of interesting. She's sending off for some kind of a email, where you sign your name, etc. And she said the prizes were, I think, 10,000, so forth, but it was on a month. It was going to run all month. And she said she submitted all her entries in, but she says, and yesterday I won $100, and I'm disappointed because I didn't win 10,000. And I said, well, if the contest is still going, I says, keep on entering it. They have to see what's wonderful about entering contests. They're never rigged. Just to get that out of your mind, they're not rigged because you're dealing with they're very well monitored, and when they make a decision, and it's especially on the radio or television or for promotional purposes, they have to abide by the rules because they don't want to be sued or anything. And so sometimes when they say you can enter as often as you like and you can win as often as you like, then for heaven's sake, if she's waiting for $10,000, but you got 100, which is okay, but I would continue to enter that one. So that's what I shared with her. I said that would be what I would do. I don't enter, in emails because I have other things to do. I've got articles to write and blueprints to print up here, and so I don't want to take the time. But if you have the time, that's an excellent way to get your end result. Carolyn's good at that. You like to enter that kind of a contest.
I like to enter all kinds of contests, and I like to teach people how to do it because it's so much fun when not just I win, but all my new contest buddies win.
Yes. Oh, yes. Anytime I hear, I get elated. I really and truly do. And as I say, I even offer help with energy. Anytime anybody emails me and say, I've got to do this, would you send me energy? Why, heavens, yes. And we know energy. You're sending energy. And, if you can see auras at sometime way in the past, I went to one of the weekend retreats where you were taught how to look at auras, etc. And we did projections there, and we could actually see energy. Another thing, when I was in Russia at one of the conferences, and the woman up front had requests for healing, and there was one woman, and you had to be there to experience it because it was awesome. This woman was up front, and she was one of the top people that was able to send healing energy. And this woman was in a wheelchair in the back of the room, and I'd say that was 50 or 75 feet back of the room. But she wanted to have to be more comfortable, and she sent this energy. And I was sitting in the aisle there, and I actually saw red energy, just like a flashlight, is what it reminded me, going to this woman's foot. And I sat there and I turned to the other woman and I said, "Did you see that energy that came from her?" And most of the people don't. But when you're really serious about studying the auric field around people, then you can automatically see energy. That's why if they're mad, sad, glad, or bad, I can see that when they come into into my room here. But anyway, I was elated that the energy, and there's not a particular distance as it has to be in the room. It can go forever. And at a recent convention at Laredo, the Silva Method Training, they had their convention in Austin in August, and they had a scientist and a physicist and really and truly a big name. I don't even recall his name, but he was talking about projecting energy, and he had done research and said, yes, definitely, this energy can come out of a person and go, in that sort of like flashlight that I had experienced so long time ago. So, yes,
wow.
I'll give you energy. Yeah, I send energy, and even feeling better. One of the gals stubbed her toe a couple of weeks ago, and she called and she said, I'm in utter agony. Can you help me heal it? And I said, sure thing, Annie. I said, just put your feet up and you've got my energy. And then the day later, she said, I'm able to put my shoe on. So she really, really banged up one of her toes. So she's okay. So yes, send energy. Send anytime anybody asks you. And don't ever deprive anybody and say, well, we're in competition. The only competition, lovely people, is with yourself. So give it, the more energy you give, the more you have.
Well, I tell people there are so many contests running in the United States and Canada right now, it's impossible to enter them all.
Sure. So take advantage. Like I'm sending Carolyn energy to get over her little raspy throat.
I know, my voice. There's enough prizes for everybody.
Sure. Okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. So I think we've covered it all. And I want to know, has anybody got any questions? Any other people in the chat room have any questions? No, I don't think we do. So I will hold on and tell people how we can win. Helene, why don't you tell them your favorite quote?
Well, there's a lot of quotes. My quote is, life is either daring adventure or nothing. But I have another one that I think is good. And that's, okay, I'll cover up your mouth. Okay, I want you to know that I cannot teach anyone anything. I can only make them think.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
Yes, that's a good idea, because you can listen, all right, now, if you're starting to think. And I was able, when I was on the lecture circuit up there on the podium, and people would come with their hands folded tight against their stomachs, especially the men. Well, the minute that they opened their hands and sort of shook a little and then tightened it back up, I knew that I had given them something to think. And it was very exciting for me, because I could read the audience. After you talk for so many years and dealing with people, you pretty well get very insightful. And that was always a big plus when I saw people that were thinking now on what I had suggested. You're only getting my opinions. Now do with it what you want to. Okay?
Well, no, we appreciate that, and you know what? I think a lot of people really take to heart what you have to say. So I want to thank you for being my guest today.
Okay.
And you already gave your favorite quote, and I think it's true, because I think one of the things is that people see life as a struggle, and it's interesting. I've never really seen it that way, and when you use Helen Keller's quote, I knew we were kindred spirits, and her quote is, life is either a daring adventure or it's nothing at all. And I think this whole adventure of entering contests and winning is really tied into, maybe she would have been a contester had she been born nowadays.
Well, evidently she knew how to project, because look what she accomplished being blind. I mean, this is phenomenal. She just learned an awful lot in that lifetime.
She did. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we talk about your blueprints, and it's not something that people can buy in a store. And so I'm going to just tell everyone, if you want a blueprint, now Helene is 85. She doesn't put these out like on an assembly line. They do take a bit of time. So be a little patient. But you can go to deltasciences.com, and there's information on all her books and on her blueprints, and you can order them right there. Okay? Mm-hmm. And sure. I'm going to tell people how to win the Divine.ca sweatshirt. I love this. Okay. I know. We have so many prizes that I love. Every show I give away a prize. It's so fun. It's as fun. I don't know if people realize this. It's as fun for me to give away prizes as it is when I win them. I love giving stuff away. It's so fun. Enter me. So I need people to send an email, and in the subject, I want you to put Divine. And by the way, if you haven't checked out Divine.ca, I know it's a Canadian site, but they have members from all over the world. It's a really great site. So go check out Divine.ca. But in the subject, put Divine, and send the email to enterme@contestqueen.com. So ENTERME @contestqueen.com. And put your name, address, and phone number in the body. So it's really easy for me to get you the prize if you're selected as the winner. Now, everyone can tune in on Monday, October 19th, as my guest will be Valerie Mitchell from Sweeps for Bloggers. And then that's SWEEPS 4 Bloggers. And this is really neat because this is one of the fairly new ways to enter and win is finding, entering, and winning prizes from blog contests, because there's a lot of little tips and tricks that are different on blog contests than they are on regular entry form style contests. So she's going to teach us how to do that. And she also has a lot of really great ones on her website herself. So we're going to talk about that. And Helene, again, thank you for being my guest. And thank you, everyone, for tuning into With the Contest Queen, where the winning begins.
Are we done?